Hey everyone, this is it, the first episode of the Newbie Investor. So in this video I'm going to cover three things: market conditions, my investment strategy for stocks, and how I hedge. In the latest Bank of America Global Fund Manager Survey, 2 out of 3 fund managers said that the US stocks are in a late stage bull market. And simplification of that would be to just say that valuations are high, but investors expect the US economy to recover and perform well in the next few years. The PE ratios for most major US indexes right now have nearly doubled since last year, and we can take a look at them right now. So here I have open a page in the Wall Street Journal, which essentially tells us the PE ratios for some of the US's most followed indexes. So here we have the Dow Jones Industrial Average, we have Russell 2000, we have the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. And what we can see on this page is the current PE ratio, or at least the most recent one. We can see what it was a year ago, and we can see the forward P/E ratio based on estimates of the next 12 months worth of earnings. Probably the most important one here is S&P 500, which tracks the 500 of the biggest US companies, but not the 500 biggest US companies. It's an important distinction, but it's basically due to the way of how the index is actually tracked. So what we can see is that today, or on the 9th of April, the S&P 500 PE was roughly 47, which is actually quite high for the index, compared to a year ago when it was about 21. The forward PE ratio would be roughly 23.5. So this is good, or at least it means that it is kind of more reasonably priced. And one reason why the S&P PE ratio right now could be that high is because most of the companies in the index have taken an earnings hit, again due to COVID. So it's likely that the earnings have fallen down, but investors believe that it's not going to stick around, which we can see in the estimate here. So they probably believe that over the next 12 months, earnings are going to come back up, and that will justify the high valuation that the index has right now. And kind of the same thing can be said for the Nasdaq. The P/E ratio is roughly 40. This is quite high. But then again, last year it was roughly 25. Here we can see that the estimate for the next 12 months is roughly 30, which is kind of high. But then again, the Nasdaq is comprised of companies that exhibit more growth traits, and these companies tend to have higher PE ratios. Another indicator that we can look at to get a feeling for the valuation of the US markets at the time is the Shiller PE ratio, also known as the CAPE ratio. Essentially what it does is it takes the last 10 years of earnings for that index and it adjusts them for inflation before arriving at the value. And it's a very interesting one. I'll probably do another video that kind of goes more in depth into it, but for the time being, all we need to know is that right now it's at one of its highest points ever, and the only time that it was higher than it is today was during the height of the dot-com bubble back in the 1999s, which is slightly worrying, but at the same time, the Shiller P ratio is not like the one ratio that tells you everything. Like you need to take it in a context. You need to look at other indicators as well, and then form your own opinion of what's happening. Okay, so we want to buy low and sell high, which means that there are generally less good deals now, but there are ways to find them if you look hard enough. There are always opportunities in the markets, and that's very important to remember, especially in times like these when the valuations are so high. So some of the other things that investors are watching right now is inflation. There's a growing expectation for a rise in inflation driven by the increased US money supply and the continuous pumping of money in the US economy that seems to be continuing and will continue for possibly another year or so, maybe 2, maybe 3, who knows. We just need to keep an eye on it. And also the US economy is opening up. So that means that consumers are going to start going around, they'll start spending more money again. And essentially this is just going to drive the economy. And it's a generally positive thing, but right now there is an expectation that this will boost inflation. People have more savings than they usually have, and they'll probably want to spend it. But at the same time, production of some goods has been affected by COVID. So there is a possibility that production and supply will not be able to keep up with demand, which always has the effect of prices rising. Another important factor to watch is the 10-year US bond yield, which stayed relatively low during last year, but towards the end of Feb, it started to spike up faster. So we saw that investors are watching this indicator because the sheer rise in 10-year bond yields made investors worried. There was a lot of exit in growth stocks, some of the hype stocks like electric vehicles, renewables, and so on. And there was a rotation into more value type of stocks, so ones that wouldn't be affected as much by the rising yields. What we know for certain right now is that the market is volatile. There are very high valuations, at least in the US, and investors are sensitive to bad events. So let me talk a bit about my investment strategy when it comes to stocks. I tend to lean towards a more balanced or cautious approach given the current market situation. But at the same time, I want to find companies that have a good upside, so they are likely to go up in value, and my investment is likely to be worth more in the coming months or years. One of the first things that I look for in a company is a healthy balance sheet. So the company should have ideally long-term debt while having lots of cash and cash equivalents. The company should also be profitable. It should have decent earnings and or earnings growth prospects. One good sign would be that the company is buying back shares, which tends to mean that the company is performing well. Ideally, insiders would own a large portion of the stock. A couple of examples of that would be Dropbox or Canadian Solar. The company should also be undervalued, and there's a couple of ways that you can determine that. So one is that the company is undervalued historically, so it has a lower PE ratio than it tends to have typically. So maybe right now it's trading at 10 or 15, whereas last year or the year before it was trading at 20 or something like that. But that should make sense. So if a company is kind of maturing or if it's kind of slowing down, it's not making as much progress as it used to do before, if there's some headwinds, if there's some challenges with the company, maybe the PE ratio is justified. Maybe it makes sense to have a lower PE ratio than it had before. The company should also ideally be undervalued relative to its peers. So if there's a company that does the same thing as the one that I'm looking at, or if it's in the same market or in the same target market, ideally the company that I'm buying should be undervalued relative to its peer, to its competitor. As essentially we'll both be tapping into the same market, but at the same time I'm kind of getting the better deal. Thirdly, the company could be undervalued relative to the market. Although, again, that kind of depends on what type of sector you're in. For example, if you look at banks or like utilities, they will always be undervalued relative to the market because they just trade at very low PE ratios. But there is a reason behind that, and that is because typically they're massive corporations that tend to grow slowly. So no one is expecting anything flashy from them. So a low PE ratio is kind of justified. Then another criteria that I kind of look for in companies is that they're small but not too small. So I'm looking for a market capitalization of somewhere between 1 and 20, 25 billion, which would mean that the company has higher chances of being worth more, being appreciated more by investors. And so, for example, if you take a company like Canadian Solar, which I think currently trades at roughly about a 2.5, 3 billion market capitalization, and you compare that to Amazon that have over 1 trillion, 1 trillion point seven, I think, right now. But essentially, there are higher chances that Canadian Solar will appreciate in value just because it's so tiny compared to Amazon. Um, Even though Amazon may not be the best example actually because it is a very good company, but it is massive. A 10% increase in Amazon would be roughly what 170 billion, whereas 10% increase in Canadian Solar would be 300 million, which is it's much easier to invest 300 million than it is to invest 170 billion. Also, I'm looking for companies that have some sort of a competitive advantage. Now, some investors call it an edge, some investors call it a moat, but essentially what it is something that a company has that ensures that it will remain profitable in the near future, and that it has a better chance of improving its operations and obviously making more money. Finally, I am looking to diversify by country. So, as I said, the US is currently overvalued, but other markets like China are not. China is a very good market right now. It's got very good opportunities, and it's also expected to be the fastest growing market over the next 5 years or so, with roughly 20% every year, really, which is quite a lot, especially given the fact that they're pretty much one of the biggest economies in the world. Now, I'll talk a bit about hedging. So, hedging is a risk management practice where you essentially limit your possible losses at the expense of possible upside. So, essentially, you end up with a more stable performing portfolio, which is good if that's what you're after. But essentially, it also kind of ensures that you're protected against various risks that can happen in the market. So, as I said, one of the things that investors are expecting right now is a spike in inflation. So, to protect myself against it, I have bought some gold and platinum. While I don't have any home builders, for example, I do have some REITs. And a REIT is a real estate investment trust, which is a company basically that owns a lot of real estate, and it collects rent from the people or businesses that occupy it, and they distribute this back to the investors in the REIT. So essentially, it's kind of a way of owning real estate without having to, buy an actual house or an apartment or whatever. And it's a good way to, for example, get exposure to different types of real estate. So, you can get, there's some real estates, for example, that operate like flats, that operate shopping malls, that operate, factories. So it can be wherever you want it to be, essentially. Crypto is becoming more mainstream. It has good returns, but has high risk. Investors are saying that it's kind of becoming the new hedge, like gold. But I personally, I'm not that familiar with crypto. So what I'm doing is I only have like a small exposure to it. And I'm using like this diversified portfolio on eToro. So essentially, I'm kind of buying 14 instruments, 14 different cryptos as part of that portfolio. So even though I'm not that familiar with any specific crypto or with the crypto, market as a whole, I am kind of diversified. So it kind of, again, that acts kind of as a hedge against picking the wrong, I guess, cryptocurrency. And hedging against my portfolio, against rising interest rates. So I'm buying financial institutions and companies with low debt and high cash. And as I mentioned before, companies that have low debt and high cash tend to be seen as more healthy, having good balance sheets. But also, if interest rates rise, companies that have a lot of cash on hand, they tend to they don't just so companies that have cash on hand, they don't just like keep it in a safe in the company. They usually keep it in short-term treasury bills or something like that. They put it in a bank, and essentially that cash generates interest income. So if interest rates rise, then those companies are going to get a slight boost in earnings. It's not going to be massive, but it is welcome. Any any earnings is good earnings. And at the same time, if they have low debt, that means that they won't be affected as much by the rise in interest rates, so they won't have to pay an increasing amount of interest. And financial institutions, obviously banks, they hold massive amounts of cash, so if the interest rates rise, then banks tend to have higher earnings, essentially, because again, they don't just keep a cash in a vault or whatever. They buy treasury bills, they buy bonds, they buy other kind of redeemable cash equivalents and so on. And against a correction in the markets, I guess you could call it a hedge to buy stable companies, because typically in a market correction or a crash or a bear market, what will happen is that stable companies that are underpinned by solid assets, solid earnings, they will not lose as big of a percentage of their value as compared to companies that are more speculative, that exhibit more growth characteristics. So companies like, I don't know, maybe AT&T, which is like a massive corporation, but it has like a steady cash flow, it has steady earnings, it has steady assets. it makes sense that this company is not going to lose its value as much as opposed to, say, a Tesla, which, even though it's a great company, it is currently very much overvalued, and the company right now is probably not justifying its high valuation if the market conditions become worse. Finally, I don't really want to overhedge, as overhedging tends to lead to lower returns, and this is not really what I'm after. You want to have some certainty, some confidence that your portfolio is not going to just drop to zero in the next market correction or crash. But at the same time, you want to take advantage of good market conditions. So if you overhedge too much, then you won't be able to take as much advantage of it. And in the end, this is what we're in the markets for. We want to make money. Thank you for watching, everyone. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to take them. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.